Hello, welcome to the Big Scuba Show.
So here we are, once again.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Peter Millar. I'm here with Ian and Gemma for the Big Scuba podcast. We hope you guys stay tuned. We're going to talk about scuba diving, NASA, the space program, and why you should get certified. So thank you so much, and please enjoy.
And welcome back to the Big Scuba. This is Ian, and also with me is
Gemma.
Yes, and here we are once again. So thank you very much for downloading us again. Thank you. Before we get to who's coming up, this is 46, Gem.
Episode 46, yes. So what interesting facts have you got?
I'm so pleased you've asked, because 46, did you know, Gem, that is the centered triangle number? Did you know that about number 46? But also, are you a superbike fan? Quite a few divers are. You know, they like sports and things. Are you? Do you like superbikes?
Are they motorbikes?
Yes. Yeah. We talk motor racing, Jen.
Well, superbikes could be like super nice bikes.
Yes, they are. And you'll be pleased to hear then that Valentino Rossi, world champion.
I've heard of him. He's Italian.
Yes,
Yes,
he is, and he rides with the number 46. So 46 is a good number, you know. And also, did you know 46? There's 46 books in the Old Testament. So there we are. We covered everything. We covered maths, religion, sports, and being a winner. There we go. Everything's covered, and that's it for the podcast. Thank you very much, and good night.
Come here for your useful facts. And
Is it?
Yeah.
Why else would you download the Big Scuba podcast? You don't think we're going to talk about diving and stuff, really?
Anyway, should we get on with it?
Yes, absolutely. Right. Okay. Glad you just reminded me, because I knew there was a reason why we do these things. Coming up on the Big Scoop podcast, we have a new guest for you, another one. And this one, he contacted us to introduce himself and say, hey, let's come on and let me tell you about what I do, because you kind of mentioned me on your podcast, and we're like, oh, this sounds brilliant. Let's get him on. And because he's a diver. What sort of diver is he, Jen? Please tell.
A dive operations specialist at NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory.
He certainly is. So what Peter does, Peter Millar, who's our guest, he basically moves astronauts about.
In their big suits.
He does. So when they're in and they're practicing, you know, what the spacewalks are like, you know, if you haven't, in fact, you know, maybe before you listen to this one, go back to 31, they download NASA's, when we talk to NASA astronaut,
Mike
Fink, you know, you might want to listen to that one first. So let's pause now. But anyway, you might want to listen to that one first and then dial back to this one. Right, so we're getting a bit complicated, but dial back to this one, and then it all makes sense what Peter Millar is now going to tell you, because basically Peter Millar, he moves people about. So when the astronauts are in their gear and they want practice doing spacewalks and doing nuts and bolts on the...
Yeah, he makes their experience feel as space-like and flight-like, so they are like they would feel in space or on the international space.
So they get a neutral.
Hello, welcome to the Big Scuba YouTube channel. Thank you for watching this episode. If you'd like to see more, please do subscribe to our channel so you can hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell, that is the notification bell, and that will tell you when we release new episodes on the YouTube channel. So please do like, hit the thumbs up, and do comment, because we love hearing your comments. So that's it, and carry on watching this episode.
But this one is all about the actual scuba dive, the actual in the water, and also about what Peter's done before with, you know, in his career.
Yeah, so it's all good, interesting stuff.
It certainly is. So let's not hold people up anymore, Jen. Let's crack on with it, and we'll listen, sit back and chill out to Peter.
Peter Millar, episode 46 on the Big Scuba podcast.
Where else would you go?
I've never lost myself without you.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Peter. Hi.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you. How
Yeah?
are you guys? Yeah. Sorry about the, being like dinner time for you. Yeah, no worries. It's my pleasure. You guys interviewed, I think I mentioned, you guys interviewed one of my former coworkers not too long ago in September, Keller Laros.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I texted him and let him know I was doing this. And I was like, are they nice? He's like, yeah, they're great.
But anyway, thank you very much, Peter, for coming on and joining us. Peter Millar, welcome to the Big Scuba podcast. It was really great to thank you very much to joining us. So,
my pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and tell us a little bit about what you do at the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory.
Yeah, no worries, Ian. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about this amazing facility that we have at NASA in the U.S. So my official job title is Dive Operations Specialist, which sounds a lot fancier than it is. But the job itself is very cool. So what I do is I am one of the people that is in our giant water tank, right? It's a huge swimming pool. 102 feet wide, 202 feet long, and 40 feet deep. Holds 6.2 million gallons of water. And I am one of the people on scuba in the water with suited subjects, mainly astronauts, but they can also be engineers. They can also be test conductors, and assisting them with their run, with their suited run. And what that means in sort of practical terms is that we as the divers try to make their experience as flight-like or space-like as possible, right? We do that in a myriad of ways. I don't know if you want me to get into the nitty-gritty right now, since this is kind of an overall, but basically we just, like I said, try to make their experiences as flight-like, space-like as possible for their duration in the pool. Yeah.
So they will have the full suit on, as they would be in the, and then I think from our discussions with Mike, he was saying that you guys, the divers, you actually help them move, actually physically help them move because of the size of the pressures.
Yeah. So basically, during a suited run, a diver can have one of three roles, and what Mike was referring to is one of the three roles that a diver can have. I don't know how much detail you want me to get into, but if you wanted, I'd be happy to give you like the full shebang of what we do. But that's up to you.
I think more sort of like I wouldn't go too deep, but sort of a general picture. It will probably be the depth that we're looking for, really.
So a non-diver can understand it.
Yeah.
The main thing. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So we all know in scuba diving, the most important thing is having good neutral buoyancy, right? It's something I tell my students continuously throughout any class that I teach, especially beginning open water. And of the three roles that a diver can have, the one that has the most interaction, I guess, with the subjects would be something called the role be called safety diver, okay? And which is the second role that you learn as a diver when you join the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory. Now, during the run, the safety divers are, like the name says, responsible for the subject's safety. So their primary or their sort of designated job is to help the subjects get out of the water in case of an emergency. Now, it sounds kind of scary, but an emergency egress doesn't necessarily facilitate an actual sort of life-threatening or dangerous kind of emergency. So, for example, when they're in the suit, they have their DIDB, their disposable in-suit drink bag, right? So it's just water, right? But it's in this little floppy bag in the front of the suit, and they have to be able to reach the mouthpiece to take.
Do they not sneak some gin in or anything like that?
Well, the only people who could probably do that would be the suit technicians, because they're the ones who are filling the actual bags. So maybe if you like gave the suit tech a little like wink wink, they might fill it with something other than water.
Spice things up a little bit.
Yeah. So for example, so if they couldn't reach that little nozzle, that would be an emergency egress, even though it's not like an emergency. So that's the safety diver's primary job, is to help the subject get out of the water in case of emergency. Now, emergency egresses are few and far between, thankfully, right? So what do we do most of the time, right? So a safety diver's job starts once the subjects are in the water, and they help get the astronauts off of the donning stand, which is the apparatus that they're attached to, that they're craned in with, right? When we get them off, we do what's called a preliminary way out, right? So like I said, good neutral buoyancy, hand sign for hover, good neutral buoyancy is a key, right? So we do the way out in stages. So the first stage is when they come off the donning stand. We make sure it's not completely like cattywampus, right? So completely just off kilter. If they're super, super heavy, we'll take weight off. If they're not heavy enough, we'll put weight on. But basically the goal of the preliminary way out is to get it so that one person, because there are 2 safety divers per subject, that one person can handle the subject with ascents and descents by themselves if necessary.
Just a quick, can I ask you just a quick question?
Yeah,
Just to
of course, yeah.
What sort of weight would they be having on, just out of interest?
Yeah, okay, so it does depend on the subject. Keep in mind that to do a proper way out, it's usually a combination of weight and or foam. And the subjects who fill out the suits the most will need foam. Some of them almost exclusively. So the amount of weight that a subject wears actually varies enormously from person to person, right? Because you have guys and women, but mainly guys, like the bigger guys, who fill out the suit so well that there's so little air in between their body and the suit that they're foam to the hilt. Okay, so they have a foam, their the digital control module, right? They have their foam module, foam mock-up of that. Then they have a huge foam block that goes in front of it, foam blocks in the back, foam all out in the back pouches as well. And then the only weight that they have is in the legs, and that can be as little as depending on the subject, 9 pounds in one leg and maybe 12 pounds in another leg, which is not a lot at all. But then you have tiny little women who are in the suit, and they have weight everywhere, right? If they're wearing a DCM pack, instead of having one that's positive 7 pounds buoyancy, it's negative 22 pounds, right? So it's and then they have, and then they have weight on top of that, and then they have 20 pounds in one leg and 25 pounds in another leg. So the amount of weight a subject wears, like I said, varies immensely from person to person.
They're trying to move with all that on.
Well, okay, so on land it would be impossible, right? The suit itself weighs close to 300 pounds, right?
Right.
In the water, yes, you do feel it. So that kind of gets me to the second part of a safety diver's job, right? So we do the preliminary way out. Once that looks good, we go to the descent line, and the subjects drop down to the descent line, just like you would in an open water class, right? When you have to do for dive for 1 and 2. So the subjects down, and then we do the primary way out, right? And this can take up to 10 to 15 minutes. And what we do is we put the subject in different positions. So for example, vertical, inverted, horizontal on their stomach, horizontal on their back, 45-degree angles, and then on their sides as well, right? And the goal is to try to get them as neutral as possible in whatever position that they want to be in. So we shift the weight around, we shift the foam around in the different spots so that they can hold, ideally, whatever position that they want to be in.
You can adjust these weights while they're under the water, can you?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. That takes about 10 to 15 minutes. And then throughout the run, we're constantly tweaking it as necessary because, as they shift in the suit, the air that's in the suit, just like a dry suit, right, would move from different parts of the suit to the feet, to the chest, to the arms, whatever. So the weight in the foam has to be adjusted throughout the run. So we do our preliminary way out, we do our main way out, and then we'd tweak it throughout the run.
So could they actually go up by their feet? Because that's 12 meters deep.
Oh, you mean could they actually go all the way from the bottom to the surface, inverted?
Yeah.
Only if the safety divers were asleep at the wheel. I mean, of course it's possible. Because throughout the run, the subjects become actually more buoyant. So foam will have to be removed or weight will have to be added as the 6-hour run goes. It's always that case, right? So if you're not on top of it, sorry, can you hear my dogs? Are they really loud?
Very good. It's fine.
Oh, okay. If you're not on top of it, because weight needs to be added throughout the run, your subject could float. No one's ever had it float all the way to the surface, but yeah.
Yeah. God, it's quite involved then, isn't it? It's just a.
Yeah. And then in addition to the way out, like Mike Fink said, we constantly have hands on the subject to help them. Ian, you asked earlier, like, is it difficult to move with all that weight? And I said, yes, at the surface. But I was myself just recently in the suit, right? And yes, it is your legs in particular. It is very difficult to get your legs up to a horizontal position from when you're vertical. And there were definitely times when I needed to ask the divers for assistance, just like almost all of the astronauts will ask the divers for assistance at certain points getting their feet up, because that's hard to do. It's a lot of weight and it's hard to do. Yeah.
So is that the first time you've actually been in a suit?
Yes, that's the first time. I've been at the MBL for almost exactly 2 years. I just hit my 2 year just a few days ago. But yeah, I was in the suit on October 9th. My anniversary was October 15th. So just a few days before my 2 year anniversary, I was in the suit. Yeah.
Brilliant. So do they let everybody have a go in the suit? So you as a diver, you know what it's like to experience?
Yes. And
Good
that's,
idea.
yeah. And that's really one of the advantages is knowing what it's like. It provided you can fit in the suit, you can be in the suit. Not everyone fits. Not everyone fits. So I was lucky enough to be able to fit in the suit. So yes, I got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of, within the whole mechanics and moving it, it's really, quite hard. And, it must take a bit of planning. You have to plan what steps, what people are going to do. And
yeah, so every suited run that we do, there is a dive brief at the beginning of the run, right? So everyone is there from all of the diver positions, the test conductor, the test director, and it's really the test conductor who's sort of running the briefing and briefing everyone on what is happening, where the subjects are going, what they're doing, what tools are required, and all of that, right? So you have all the diver positions there, medical is there, suit engineers are there, tool engineers are there, and basically it's choreographed, right? Yeah, certain test conductors go into more detail than others, right? But yeah, the whole thing is choreographed from start to finish, so that everyone's on the same page, everyone knows where they're going, everyone knows what they're going to do. Now, a lot of these runs that we see multiple times, the briefing. The divers, we as divers already know what's going to happen when it's sort of not a development run, right? But on the dev runs, for sure, when it's like the first time we're doing something, it has to be sort of very carefully choreographed so that we can maximize our efficiency in the water, right? And sort of
are you in
minimize
the water all that time, those 6 hours?
Okay, so the diver positions are actually, the subjects are, yes. So the diver positions are broken up into 3 shifts. So we call them teams, first team, second team, third team. So the people who do first team are generally the same people who do third team. So first and third are the same people. And then second team, it's its own shift. So if you're diving first and third, yeah, you're in the water for 4 hours because each shift is 2 hours.
But will you be actually under all that time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The only time you would ever come to the surface is if you needed to change out for your tanks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And occasionally you do, depending on how hard you're working.
Because you've got twin sets on, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're using twin 80 cubic foot cylinders filled with nitrox, 46% oxygen, which is great. It's exactly a partial pressure of 1 atmosphere of oxygen when you were down at 40 feet, right? Which I'm sure is not an accident. So, well within the, 1.4 normal tolerance of partial pressure. And it's great. You feel great after the dive. We do it because the subjects, of course, are in for 6 continuous hours, right? So if they were diving anything less than that, percentage of oxygen wise, they wouldn't be able to do a 6-hour run without going into deco, right?
I've got to ask the obvious. What about loo break? 6 hours. It's a long time being in a suit.
Yeah. So I'm surprised Mike didn't mention this, but maybe he didn't. I did listen to his cast. So in the suit, the first layer that you put on, because you have layers underneath, but the first layer you put on is something called your MAG. It stands for Maximum Absorbency Garment. And if you're thinking that sounds like an adult diaper, you're 100% right.
That's what it sounds like.
Recently, we just graduated to the pull-up kind, since we're all big boys and girls now. So that's nice.
Are they nice and elasticated around the waist?
Yeah, it's like
Oh, that's lovely.
picture like a pull-up diaper that a child would wear, but now on an adult.
So it's not like the old Formula One drivers then, when they had to go mid race, they would just do it in the car.
Yeah, no. So
And then say to the pit
you're
guys,
essentially doing it in the suit, but you have something to keep it all contained.
they used to say, the drivers used to say to the pit engineers, sorry, couldn't wait. And that'd be their job to clear it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, somebody's got to do it, I guess. Yeah, they got a race to win. So yeah, that's
well,
kind of
let's
how it
backtrack a
works.
little bit. Let's
Yeah,
backtrack a little bit. Let's talk a bit about your, scuba diving.
Yeah.
Because you've been diving, 13 years?
Yeah,
So
14 actually.
how do you actually get into diving? What got you into it?
So I learned to swim. I learned to swim when I was 3, and I was on swim team. I did summer league, I did USS, American USS swimming, and I did high school swimming from when I was 8 years old to 17 years old. Right, so for 9 years. I've always loved the water. I've always been a water guy. And diving is something that I wanted to do for years prior to actually getting certified. But in 2006, I got a nice severance package from a job when I left, and I had a little bit of extra time and a little bit of extra money, and I was like, this is the perfect time. This is the perfect time. It was like spring of 2006. I was living in LA at the time, and if you don't know, or for anyone listening who doesn't know, the diving in Southern California, or up really like the whole west coast of the U.S. is great. Right. In Southern California in particular, we have beautiful kelp forest. And if you've never dived in the kelp forest, I recommend it to everyone. I mean, it's literally like flying through like a forest of redwoods, right? It's incredible. And anyway, so I had some extra time, had some extra money, and I found a dive shop that was close to me, Eco Dive Center in Culver City, shout out. I did all of my training there. I started open water diver with nothing, and then went through OWSI with Patty. And the weird thing is, I never wanted to teach anything. I never thought I would want to teach anything until I got certified as a diver. And literally the first pool confined water session I had, I was like, I'm going to teach this. I'm going to teach this. I'm instantly in love with it. It's exactly how I always pictured it, even better. And so that was 2006, and then I was an instructor by 2007, almost a year later exactly. Yeah,
it's very quick.
From zero, going from zero to, and I took a 3-month break because I worked on a cruise ship up in Alaska for a summer, July, August, September of that year. So there was 3 months that I wasn't doing it. So really, I started my advanced swim water class, and I was an instructor 9 months later.
Yeah, well, that's a real achievement.
yeah. Because I was working full time at the dive shop too. So all I would do is dive on the weekends.
Live and breathe it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So you ended up working at Jack's Dive Locker.
That's right. Yes, I did. Yeah.
How did your journey take you there?
So it's kind of so in California, one of my dive jobs I had was working for a dive boat called the Peace Boat. It's out of Ventura Harbor, and I met a guy there whose name is Dave Fink. He was a captain, and he was this imagine like a live action character.
Any relation?
Huh?
Any relation?
To Mike Fink? No relation at all. But imagine like a live action version of Yosemite Sam with the mustache and the whistle when he talks and everything like that, and you have Dave Fink. Anyway, he told me about a job that he had in Hawaii as a captain, but at the time I didn't really, I wasn't planning on moving there, so I didn't, pay attention. Flash forward years later, I'm living in Japan. I really want to get back into teaching diving. And I was like, I've always wanted to live somewhere tropical and dive every day. So, as an American citizen, I was like, well, it's easiest if I just apply to Hawaii because I don't need a visa. So I sent my resume to every PADI dive shop in Hawaii. I used the PADI website and found every single one. And the first shop to respond to me, the very first one, was Jack's Diving Locker.
Cool.
And not only were they the first one to respond, but they were also the one to give me the most definitive time frame. Now, keep in mind, I'm living in Japan, right? So all the other dive shops were like, yeah, if you make it out here, then maybe we can set up an interview possibly and see how it goes. Jack was like, hey, can you start in May? And I was like, you know what? Yes, I can. So so I came out there for an interview. Went on the boat, had a boat day where I got to meet people and they got to meet me and like see their procedures and everything like that. But one of the things that attracted Jax to me was I used Dave Fink as a reference. And it was just coincidental that I used him because I had other people as well, but I really liked him. We got along. And then when the owners of Jax saw his name on my resume, there was like ding, 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 they called him actually to check on that. And he gave me a glowing recommendation. So, having that connection in California for a dive shop in Hawaii was just some serendipitous, happy circumstance. So yeah, that's how I ended up at Jax.
Awesome.
So how long were you there for?
For over 5 years. And not only over 5 years in my like original time frame. So I moved there in 2009, and then I moved to Texas in 2014. But I came back to Jax to teach for 2 summers. So once in 2015 and then once again in 2018. So yeah, if you add up my entire time, 5.5, 6 years altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be an amazing place to dive as well.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like Hawaii is an amazing place, and those people at Jack's Diving Locker are like Keller Laros, and the owners Jeff and Terry Leischer and their son Kavika. They're my family. Like they're really my my Hanai family.
That's
yeah,
good to hear. And Keller, he was a great guest, good fun.
Yeah,
and, very passionate about what he does. And,
Manta Pacific Research
that's
Foundation.
really good. Yeah, really good. He actually said to us to say to you or ask you, what did the fish say when it swam into the concrete wall?
Damn. Yeah, he has a repertoire of jokes, and he does add to it occasionally, but he has his like standbys that we all
he just drops them in
that we all know and love. Yeah.
Hi there, it's Ian here. Wanted to just take a break from Peter Millar at the moment and just tell you about an earlier episode that we made with NASA astronaut Mike Fink, who spoke to us for some time and told us about his scuba history and scuba experiences and how diving helped him get through the NASA training and become a astronaut with NASA, and also how it helped him become carry out his first spacewalks. And you can find that on episode 31.
Yes, we had to do a swim test too, and at that time,
swim test.
I'm sorry.
200-meter swim test.
Yes, and we also had a few other things where we had to practice, practice treading water and things like that. And at that time in my life, I was less buoyant, more muscle and less fat. So I was the only one in the swim test. They couldn't see my eyes were just barely above the water, and my hands were above the water. So I'm glad I don't have to take the swim test very often. So after the swim test, they helped us get scuba certified for those astronauts who were selected who hadn't been certified already. And then we practiced spacewalking in scuba gear, and then we moved on to the suits. Now, we didn't do dry suits. In fact, the NBL is quite comfortable, so it was more like in a t-shirt and swim trunks, and then a standard scuba gear.
Okay, so that was Mike Fink, and now it's be time to get back to the last part of our chat with Peter Millar.
So have you had a best dive ever anywhere around the world?
Ooh, okay. So I saw that on your list of questions, and I've been thinking about it. And honestly, I don't know if I can pick a single dive. I've had many amazing dives, and the ones that I'm thinking of are all amazing for different reasons, if I had to pick, let's say 2, okay. the first one is going to be my first ever dive, right? Because I feel like that one set the tone and sort of cemented my love of it, and I will always remember it. I was in Catalina Island, so off the coast of Southern California. For those of you who don't know, there are a bunch of Channel Islands, 8. We call them the Channel Islands, right? There's 4 in the north, and then sort of a group of class 4 or so in the south. Catalina is the main one. There's like a semi-permanent town there called Avalon, and another one called Twin Harbors. Anyway, there's a dive park in Avalon called Casino Point. And you can just go, and it's a shore entry, right? You can just go. It's cordoned off for divers. There's no boat traffic or anything like that. And it's a protected area as well. So it's a marine sanctuary. And that was like my first dive ever. I had one instructor. There were 8 students, right? So right at the top of like ratios, right? And, you know, at one point, I'm not going to say anything to get him in trouble. He was a great instructor. But, you know, at one point or another, I found myself just sort of like looking at like I don't know what it was, just a sea urchin or something that's just crawling along the bottom, and then just finding myself so entranced and so mesmerized by the aquatic environment that I had never seen before, right? So yeah, I mean, that will always stand out in my mind. Yeah.
No, that's good.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what advice do you have for anyone who's thinking about starting the scuba journey? What advice would you have for them?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would first say, okay, so I feel like there are like water people and like not water people. You know what I mean? And maybe that's like simplifying it. So for the people who are water people, you know, my biggest piece of advice is not really an advice, but just like, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it, right? And you're gonna fall in love with it. And I guess, okay, so if I did have a piece of advice, it would be that start thinking and budgeting for getting your own personal equipment as soon as possible. Right? Not stuff beyond just mask, snorkel, and fins. I'm talking about dive computer, reg, BC, SMB, you know, the works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to love it so much more when you are diving with your own stuff and you don't have to rent, and you know how it works and it fits you and you like it. And it's like, so yeah, for the people who are like water people, get your gear, start budgeting for your gear as soon as possible, even like during your open water course, if you can afford it, right? And you can acquire it like bit by bit, right? For the people who are not water people, right? Because I've seen lots and lots of students over the years who came into the class nervous, right? And maybe it's because someone in their family was signed them up, or they were just trying to overcome a fear, but like they didn't really want to be there, right? But they were going to give it the old, you know, college try. My biggest advice for those people would be, do a Discover Scuba Diving first before you commit to an open water class, just to see if you like it, right? You don't want to have to drop out of the class and then pay all that money and then like schedule your time and then have it like not work for you, right? Yeah, sure. So my biggest piece of advice would be, do a DSD, doesn't matter where, just do a DSD, maybe multiple if you need to, just to get your feet wet, you know, just to see if this is something that works for you, and then go from there. You know, if it goes great, immediately sign up for your open water class, right? Because that momentum is awesome. And if it doesn't, now you know, it's not for you.
And there are people out there that will say, no, can't do that. But probably, you know, if they just like do get their feet wet, they might suddenly have a revelation and think, well, this is underwater.
Gemma, I completely agree. It's entirely possible to have some sort of epiphany, like scuba epiphany, and be like, oh, no, this is way better than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. So I think that would be my biggest piece of advice.
So just a little interval from this episode. Ian and I work hard to bring guests and content across our podcast platforms, social media, and our YouTube channel, The Big Scuba. Would you like to become involved? Become a supporter, a sponsor, a Patreon of The Big Scuba. There are several levels of contribution, the smallest being just $2. If you'd like to become a patron of The Big Scuba podcast, please go to www.patreon.com/The The Big Scuba Podcast. There you will see the levels of support. You can be an octopus, a dolphin, an orca, or a mighty blue whale. Just for the $2, you'll receive a shout out on our next episode. We look forward to welcoming you to the Big Scuba Podcast community. Right, back to the episode.
Yeah. Do you miss the teaching world?
Well, I've never left it. This dive shop that I worked for before getting the job at the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, Sugarland Dive Center, shout out Sugarland Dive Center. I still teach for them, actually. I taught for them the last 2 weekends. I had a lake session last weekend, and then the weekend before that, I had my confined water and my academics. So, yeah, so I don't have to miss it because I've never left it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good that you're doing that, though. You're still working for NASA, and also you're still involved with teaching new divers. I think that's a really good mix.
Yeah, and it's nice because I don't teach very often. Like I maybe do like a class every month or a month and a half, right? It just everything. It always feels fresh, you know. Yeah. And like I did open water class the last 2 weekends, but the week that class I taught before that was actually a rec specialty, a local rec specialty. So, you know, I'm teaching, you know, my teaching runs the gamut from, you know, beginners to more advanced stuff.
Yeah. And it helps keep your own skills up to date, your own, and keeping up to date with what's coming out of PADI and all those sort of updates and what's going on with news and things, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, so that's brilliant. So looking into your earlier diving history, so you spent some time helping out BBC Animal Planet and National Geographic.
So we had we have these film crews come in this is when I was working at Jack's Diving Locker, right? And there are the BBC probably, if I'm remembering correctly, I think that was probably, I don't think I was involved in that one. They came to do a shoot, but I don't think I was actually helping on that one. The Animal Planet though one and the National Geographic one, yes. So we had a guy come in, his name is Jeff Corwin. I don't know if that rings any bells for you, but he had a show years and years ago when I was in college on Animal Planet. Where he would just, he would go out, he's a biologist and would go out and, interact with animals and things. But he did another show in like a sort of a creature focused show, and he was filming, this episode was about manta rays, actually. So I got to be, I had kind of like, I really liked him, and my boss was like, yeah, you want to be on the boat that day? And I was like, yeah, I want to be Jeff Corwin. Like, he's awesome. I love his show. So I got to be in the water. Now they had their own film crew. So I didn't really get to, I wasn't part of the filming, but I was down there. I was helping place lights and things like that, right? And I got to see them film. And of course, this is at night doing the Manta night dive as well. So I've done that dive, hundreds of times, working at Jack's, right? But it's never boring. It's never boring. It's always amazing because the mantas are amazing, right? And the environment in which you're looking at them is amazing. I'm sure Keller talked about mantas ad nauseum.
We're waiting for Keller to name one after the big scuba. That's what we're waiting for.
Well, he's very possible.
A new one to be seen.
Ian Ray or Gemma Ray.
Big scuba Ray.
Yeah, so that was great. It was great meeting Jeff Corwin. It was great being like able to help with that shoot. And then the National Geographic one was very, very cool. They had this light that they had, I don't know if they had made it or they were like using it, but it was this, they called it an aqua sun. This thing was like the size of a beach ball, right? Completely spherical. And around it, of course, were like different light heads, right? So it shined light in, of course, every direction because it was a sphere. And it was so bright. So the area where we normally do, this is also at night, the area where we normally do the Manta night dive is, I don't know, it's probably like, I don't know, the size of maybe like 200 yards, in one direction, like 100 yards in another direction. It's quite a lot of area, right? And this light, however bright it was, it lit the entire thing, right? The water, looking at it from the surface, it was turquoise. Like the water was the color it would be like in daytime, right? And what they were shooting was they were shooting like deep pelagic animals, right? Now they were only at like 80 feet or so, right? So they were, sort of not faking the shots, but you know what I mean, like getting some stock footage and things like that. But to see this thing in the water was amazing. And I did get to actually physically get my hands on some cables. So as the cameramen were filming and whatever, I got to be cable wrangler for that shoot, which is kind of cool because it kind of prepared me for my job at the NBL, because one of the diver positions is cameraman. So, and we have to wrangle camera cables, for my job now. So
yeah, it's good experience.
Exactly. Yeah, a little bit of good experience for that, for wrangling cables. Yeah.
And is it right you've been a model for Paddy as well?
Yeah. So when I was home, when I say home, I mean Hawaii, because that's where I consider home. So when I was home in 2018, Paddy was doing a film shoot for their Reactivate program. So the Reactivate, for people who haven't been diving in a while, they come in, do a little bit of academics, and then do some skills with an instructor, and then they get it, logged, and they get like a little notation, like thing that they have done Reactivate, as well as in their logbook. Anyway, so they were doing a promo for that, a marketing campaign for that, and they hired this lovely woman and her sister, Kimmy Warner. She's an Instagram influencer. She's a free diving extraordinaire, right? And her and her sister, so Kimmy was, the talent. Her sister, came along, and the shoot was, I did a pool session with them, just like I would on a normal Reactivate. I did the whole shebang. Like, we didn't, fake anything. Like, I went literally with them from, this is a scuba cylinder, to, doing giant strides and doing their skills underwater and stuff like that. And it's on Paddy's YouTube channel as well. So it's on Paddy's YouTube channel. You can watch it. But yeah, so through Reactivate. And then we went out on the boat. So we went on the boat. We had 2 days on the boat. And we brought like DPVs, got to went in some caves. And we saw tiger sharks, we had dolphins, we saw mantas, we saw eagle rays. Like, those ladies had an amazing 2 days on the boat. But yeah, so if you check out, and then Kimmy was very kind enough to actually talk about me, in the marketing campaign as well. She had mentioned that she, how much I like my job, which she's right, I do. And she said I was meant to be an instructor, which I like that also. But yeah, you can check that out on Paddy's YouTube channel. But yeah, basically it's the marketing for their Reactivate, which is a great thing.
Yeah, no, it was good to be involved in something like that.
That was super fun. It was super fun. Yeah. I liked it. I was very lucky to get to do something like that.
So your instructor training and how you are with your students and all that, do you find that helpful when you transfer over into the NBL, when your other job? Do you find that those skills that you learn as a teacher help?
Yes, actually, absolutely. Not so much in the interaction part of it, but in the paying attention part of it. When you first start training in the NBL, it feels, like as a safety diver, I mean, even as a float diver, actually, the camera dive position, it feels overwhelming because you have a lot of things you have to pay attention to, right? You have to pay attention to the subject's buoyancy, their spatial awareness, because it's very easy. So they have their helmet bubble protecting their visor, right? And because of that fishbowl effect, it distorts, how things look underwater. So things look farther away than they actually are. So it's not difficult for them to accidentally hit their face shield into things, So, and then also, of course, they get caught on things because they have all of these dangling
things.
Could
they not have a
by
layer
gravity.
or something like that for on the visor to compensate for that?
Could they not have what?
Like a layer on the visor, so when they're out in the water, to compensate for that?
Well, there is. I mean, there's the inner layer, which is the bubble, and then there's the outer layer, the protective shields, right? So if they hit something, they're hitting the protective shield. They're not hitting the glass layer, right? They're hitting the acrylic layer, right? But still, that's not something that you want to happen, right?
No.
And so there's that. There's their buoyancy. There's them getting tangled on things, and then of course on top of all of that, there's their umbilical cable. So unlike on an actual real spacewalk, their breathing gas, their water for cooling, power for the suit, it's all brought, and then power for the camera and audio, it's all brought via an umbilical cable that's attached to the subject. And that is its own tangling hazard, right? And that also has to be weighed out. So you have to pay attention to the buoyancy of the umbilical, the tangling of the umbilical, the tangling of the subject's tethers, getting caught on structure, hitting structure, and their buoyancy all at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if they're holding anything that's not neutrally buoyant, which most of it isn't, so something that's heavy or something that's light, you also have to pay attention to that. And is that snagging on something? Is it acting flight-like, on top of everything else? So as an instructor, you have to pay attention to your students' buoyancy, okay, who's sinking, who's floating, where are they, what does their kick look like? Okay, this one's doing skills right now, are you guys still okay? That sort of thing, right? So your attention is split in multiple people, especially the more students you have, the more attention the more your attention is split. So yes, that aspect of being an instructor absolutely played a role in my training, because I'm very used to having my attention divided 10 different ways.
What qualifications did they ask for? When you first applied, what sort of qualifications were they looking for to become a diver in the pool?
Okay, so if you read the job description, the qualifications are very minimal. You have to be open water certified with 25 log dives and a high school diploma. Okay, but here's the thing. If someone applied and those were their only qualifications, they wouldn't even look at their resume, right? Because yes, those are according to the minimum requirements for the job description, but no person who ever met those minimum requirements would ever get hired, right? We interviewed on the last round of interviews, we were interviewing a lieutenant colonel with a PhD in microbiology, you know what I mean, who was a former helicopter pilot. That's the caliber of people that interview at the MBL and get callbacks and things like that. I recommended a friend for our last round of hiring who is a former Navy, special warfare firefighter, paramedic, boat captain, U.S. Coast Guard boat captain with his 100-ton license, a dive master for years as well. That's who we're
pretty
hiring.
Handy person.
Yeah. So they love former military. So former military goes to the top of the pile always, right? After that, they look for they love commercial divers. They love people with fabricating experience, welders, fabricators, carpenters. They love people who are very savvy, right? And then of course they love scientific divers as well. So people with marine biology or other aquatic scientific degrees, they like. And then the very bottom of the pile, so former military is up here, at the very bottom, they have people with scuba experience, and that's where I came. What
about gardeners with gardeners stroke dive masters?
Gardeners
stroke dive masters, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Where are they?
Sure. I don't know. They might be, yeah. So that's sort of what they look for. They like well-rounded people, mechanically oriented people, especially former military as well. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good to know for any of our listeners if they see a job advertised at the MBL. So do you have different projects you work on through a course of a period, or have you got anything in particular you're working on at the moment that you can tell us about?
Well, I think I can tell you about the lunar stuff that's happening right now, because NASA has put out they've put out their marketing for it as well. Recently, we had astronaut Zena Cardman in the suit, testing the new XEMU suit. They've already had a press conference on that, so I don't think there's anything that I can't say that they can't reveal. And while she was diving on the suit that day, she actually did a live telecast about lunar ops and the Artemis missions coming up and everything like that, right? So in addition to doing the ISS EVA training as well, we're also gearing up to try to have that MBL be like one of the go-to spots for lunar ops training for the upcoming Artemis missions, right?
Yeah.
So, so there are multiple sort of projects, so to speak, multiple focuses like happening at the MBL, right? There's also something happening that I can't talk about, but just goes to say that there's another something that's happening as well. Right?
Well, that's great.
So does SpaceX train there?
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
commercial crew, so Bob Behnke and I can't remember the other astronaut for the demo crew, right? But Mike Hopkins and Victor Glover, who are part of the Crew 1, who are going up. Right now, we just had a briefing about it. I think it's going to be like mid-November right now. I had to get pushed back. Yeah, the SpaceX crew, the Boeing crew, NASA crew, they all train.
Oil trainer.
The MBL is it. The MBL is it, right? So if you're an astronaut who's going up to the ISS, and that's where you go, right? So yes, absolutely, they do.
It must be amazing to meet them all as well.
Yeah.
It is, honestly, and it's funny because you meet these astronauts and it's like, ooh, they're an astronaut. Yes, it's an amazing thing to be, but like, and I mean this in the best possible way. Like, we're all just people, right?
Exactly.
Right. We're all just people.
That's
like,
good. I like that.
I've gone out for drinks with astronauts, like after work, you know what I mean? Or like they come to work, we host like work parties and things like that, right? So it's like a work function, but like, you see like someone who you just, an astronaut who's in the suit and it's like, oh, they're at the Christmas party kind of a thing. Yeah. So, but yeah, so yes, it's very great. But like even better than like meeting an astronaut is just casually hanging out with someone who happens to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's definitely a perk.
Yeah, I'd say. So I think one of the things I don't think we have asked is yourself. Are you in a wetsuit?
Yes, for the most part, almost all the dives. So the pool is heated to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And it is, at least that's what they tell us it is. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that, and temperature does fluctuate a little bit depending on what's going on with the pumps. But I'm to the point where I can't be in the water that long without wearing a wetsuit, like at that temperature, right? Even though that's very high, like I need to wear something. So usually I'm wearing like a 3 mil, full suit, from ankles to wrists. If it's going to be a dive where I know I'm not going to be moving around a lot, I also have a 4-3 that I put on as well. Not over top, but like instead of my 3-2. So yeah, I'm absolutely wearing a wetsuit, but not everyone is. Some people diving just t-shirts and shorts and board shorts, right?
Yeah.
So it just depends on the person.
Well, water is well known for actually absorbing the heat, body heat, isn't it? So you can actually, you can lose a lot of body heat being in the water a long time, even when it's heat.
Yeah, absolutely, you can. Yeah, but some people are just diving in t-shirts and shorts. So I'm kind of wimpy when it comes to that, but not everyone is.
Well, it's always nice to be warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So recreational diving, have you got any preference on the type of diving, whether it's wrecks or reefs or?
I do have a preference in the fact that I love interesting topography. I think that's why Hawaii was so up my alley, because the islands being volcanically formed, right? And geologically speaking, fairly recently volcanically formed on the Big Island in particular. You have all sorts of like swim-throughs and caverns and lava tubes and arches and canyons and drop-offs, and like the underwater topography there is very striking. And the more sort of outlandish it is, the more I like it. Because it just drives home the fact that you can explore it in whatever axis you want, right? X, Y, and Z axes, and it just makes me feel like I'm flying underwater, right? So so I know interesting topography gets me every time, and that sort of tangentially relates to man-made structures as well. So the one penetrable wreck I did was in Cozumel, which, by the way, if anyone's listening who hasn't been diving in Cozumel, go dive Cozumel. Cozumel's amazing. But you know, it was this beautiful wreck that they had punched out holes in the side of to make it, you know, safer for people to penetrate, because there's lots and lots of exit points like everywhere throughout it. But once again, like being able to explore a structure that you wouldn't normally be able to explore on every access, just makes it feel like flying, which is one of the things I like most about diving. It's like I feel like I'm flying. And also one of the things I love about my job, because you have man-made structure, a mock-up of man-made structure, the ISS, in the pool, right? And to be able to explore all of that and work on all of that as well also triggers my flying love, right? Like the thing that I love about diving so much. So yeah, so interesting topography gets me like anytime.
So do you think you're an astronaut when you're like flying over all the?
Yeah, basically, yeah, exactly. Sometimes, this is gonna be embarrassing, but sometimes if I'm on a dive and the topography is quite good, let's say for example, like I'm like swimming along and then the bottom just drops out, right? So like it's down like 100 feet down, right? I'll like go over and like put my arms out to the side, like I'm an airplane. So yeah, it's a little embarrassing. It's a little bit TMI probably, but yeah, I have done that from time to time.
We all do it. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you very much. That's kind of the end of those sort of questions. So we've got our sort of set questions. Okay.
Bring them up.
So we'll crack on with them. So have you got a dive location is on your bucket list? Where's going to be your next place to go?
Okay, well, I don't know if it'll be my next place to go, but yes, I definitely have some locations. I think probably right now, I'd love to go to the Philippines.
Yeah,
I'd love to go to the Philippines, Dumaguete or Tubataha, to see. There are some critters there that I have more like critters on my list rather than like locations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see some male ribbon eels. I want to see some mandarin fish.
Yeah.
I want to see some like mimic octopus or like wonderpuss. You know what I mean? I want to see some of the more like interesting like the nudibranchs out there. But yeah, so it's like, and I know like in places like that where there's like muck diving, like there's wonderpuss, I want to see some peacock mantis shrimp, you know, because I think they're just fascinating. So yeah, I think so. The Philippines, I think, was probably at the moment like top of my list. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, that sounds like fun. Yeah. If you could take 3 people diving or snorkeling or even in a submersible, they can be past, present, who would you choose to take and why?
Okay, so it's probably obvious, but the first one, Jacques Cousteau, right? Because I would just be like, I'm an open book here. You know, just lay whatever knowledge you have. Just lay it on me. You know what? You guide this dive. I'm just gonna follow you along like a little puppy, and you just teach me about the ocean. You know, so that would be my number one. Number 2 would be my mother, because I've only ever gotten to get her do a DSD in the pool in the shallow end. That's all she was like able to do, right? So if I could somehow, you know, convince her or get her over her fear and make her comfortable, I would want her to experience the things that I experience, right? So she know like firsthand. She looks at all my videos, she looks at all my pictures, right? But like I would want her to know what it's like, right? And then my third one, to get a little serious. So recently, I had a friend, a very, very dear friend, pass away. He and I worked together at Jack's Diving Locker. I was his advanced open water instructor as well. His name is Jeff Sharp, and he's not with us anymore, right? And if I could dive with him one more time, yeah, that would be my third person.
That's a really special thing to say.
Yeah. He loved frogfish. That was his thing. He would take pictures of frogfish no matter what, no matter where, and really great photos. And yeah, that would be my third person to dive with.
Yeah, no, excellent answers. Yeah, really good. Yeah.
So most of us, we like a good curry, don't we? You know, and do you like it? What's your post dive meal? Do you have one? Is there a particular meal that you enjoy after a good dive?
What do you want me? I mean, I love curry, so it's like, do you want me to say curry or?
Yeah, I don't know whether it's just in the UK. You know, is it worldwide? You know, we all seem to like a good curry here after a dive. You know, is it the same for you? You know, what do you like?
I mean, I love curry, but no, it's normally like if I'm like going after a dive, after a dive, I'm like, I mean, it's not like the first thing I think of, but I do love it. Let's see here, post dive meal. You know, it probably be just because it's my favorite thing to eat, period. So I'm just going to say sushi. Because it's like I could eat sushi breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day of the week. So yeah, it's like something that would like it satisfies me no matter when I'm eating it. So yeah, so it's like, let's go with my favorite meal. So yeah, sushi.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And this is probably the most important question of the night.
Yeah,
is,
sure.
Where's your chili level? You know, are we talking Madras, Korma, foul?
Okay, so if we're doing like, let's do it on a number scale, right? Because, you know, everyone's like, every restaurant is even different, right? From going from restaurant to restaurant. So it's like if 0 is bland, right? And 10 is like tongue scorching, like in pain for half an hour after your meal kind of
Scotch bonnet level then, really.
Yeah. I'm probably at a comfortable 6, you know.
Madras.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If we want to call it that. I want to feel it, but I don't want to be in pain. And I don't want to not enjoy my meal. You know what I mean?
Sweat up on the back of the head.
Yeah, sweat. Oh no, I think if I develop the sweat, that's probably too much. But like a tingle in the throat, a tingle on the tongue, that warming sensation as it goes down. That's like
that's enough.
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
Sparkle on the tongue, I always say.
Yeah, there we go. I like it. Sparkle on the tongue. Yes, that's a good way of putting it, Ian. Yeah,
it is.
I like that. Yeah.
So do you have a favourite piece of dive equipment that you can't do without or you must have on any dive?
Dive computer. 100%. Like that, don't even have to think about it. Like if you don't have a dive computer, I'm speaking to all my new like divers out there. If you don't have a dive computer, get a dive computer, right? The one I have a Sunto Eon Steel. I love it, right? It's customizable, it's backlit, it's it's colorful, it's rechargeable batteries, right? Super reliable. I've been a Sunto fan for years. All of my computers have been Sunto, right? But yeah, just so that dive computer or dive computers in general, yes, dive with a computer. Just do it.
Yeah. I agree with that all the way.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so if you could put a message, so you've got a billboard, and metaphorically speaking, you could put a message on it to put a message out there to the millions of people.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a photo, it can be an image, it can be a statement, it can be a question, whatever you want to use it for. What are you going to put on the billboard?
Ooh, so it can be non-diving related, yeah?
Anything you want.
Yeah.
If you wanted to tell the millions and billions of people something, what would you put on it?
I think it would be some sort of variation on the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you, right? Maybe not those exact words, but some sentiment about treating others kindly and treating them with respect. Because I feel like, that if you treat others with kindness and you treat others respectfully, that lays the foundation of just humanity cooperating with each other, right? Because how can you say something hurtful? How can you do something hurtful if you are adhering to that mantra of being kind and being respectful? Because anyone who is kind and is, has kindness and is being respectful of their fellow humans, they're not going to say something hurtful. They're not going to do something hurtful, because those two things are mutually exclusive, right? So it would be some variation on that. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, I think would be my message.
Yeah, and that can apply to people and, you know, sort of how we treat the planet and everything.
Exactly. Yeah, because the kindness doesn't have to extend just to people, right? The environment as well. Be kind and be respectful of it, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's brilliant. So for you're on social media, aren't you? You know, if anyone who's listening to this, or they think they know you, or you know they want to get in contact, you know, providing that's all right, you know, where are they best to do that? You know, if they want to follow you or say.
Yeah. So I'm most I have a Facebook, but I'm most active on Instagram, and I have my accounts linked so that anything I post on Instagram will also get posted on Facebook. So, but yeah, so it's my my Instagram handle is pmillar14. So PMILLAR14.
Yeah.
Is my Instagram handle, right? So I posted pictures recently of my day on the suit, which was super fun. I have pictures of my I got some great photos. I have pictures of my diving underwater photography photos on there. I like to bake a lot, so it's one of my like non-diving hobbies. So there's pictures of my baking on there. Yeah.
You're a good guy to know then if you bake.
Yeah, I made my roommate a blackberry pie for her birthday just a couple days ago. So yeah,
very nice.
Yeah. So P Millar spelled with an A, 14.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just want to say, actually, on your photos that you did share, the clarity of that water is amazing. It's like you're in air, not water.
Yeah, it's infinite visibility. I mean, pretty much, right? So it's like I said, the pool is 202 feet long, right? So, you know, we know if we're on like a diagonal, like a rectangle, right? So the hypotenuse of that triangle, that's even longer than the 202 feet, right?
Yeah.
So someone could be on, we have stairs at every corner. So someone could be on the stairs at one corner, looking diagonally across the pool, so even longer than 202 feet. And someone on the other stairs could be making an okay hand sign, and you could see it. You can see it. You can see their hand. You can see if they were holding up however many fingers. You could see how many fingers they were holding up.
Nice.
It's that clear. So it's well over 200 feet of visibility, right? So like picture the clearest water you've ever been.
Does it ever go cloudy? Do they ever get a day when it goes a bit more cloudy? Because that's remarkably clear.
Yeah, it does. There is. Specifically, we had for the last year. I mean, they left a few months ago, but we were repainting the walls of the pool, right? So before they painted, they had to pressure wash all the old like plaster and stuff like off the walls, right? So the pumps just couldn't keep up with it, right? So there was like an 11th month period where the visibility was always good, right? I mean, it's like, okay, let's but definitely not as crystal light. As you saw in the picture.
There's 100-meter visibility instead of 120 meters.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but the painters are gone now, so I mean, so the pumps keep up, and it hasn't been cloudy in months.
Amazing clear.
Months. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think people will be completely wowed by the pictures when they look you up.
Oh, awesome! I hope so. Yeah, I hope it also generates more interest in NASA and the American Space Program as well. It definitely feels like working at the MBL, especially right now, gearing up for the Artemis missions and stuff like that. It really does feel like being a part of history, you know, because, you know, this is what, people were doing, 50 years ago, right? And, NASA had an open house not too long ago, like a year or so ago. And I was in an elevator, and there was this guy I didn't know, older gentleman, and he pointed out a picture to like his family member who was like a kid, right? And he's like, that was me. And it was like during the Gemini era, right? And it was like, I don't know what his job was, but like there was a photo of him just like, helping people suit up. And I was like, 50 years down the road, I've definitely been in pictures of some of the astronauts who were training in the XAMU suit, right? Like I have a picture of like me and Xena together, right? So it's like that photo may be up somewhere, right? And 50 years from now, I may be saying to a small child, look, it's me in that picture, right? Because this is a momentous time, I think, for the space program, the return to the moon, right? Yeah.
Yeah, special times. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, have you got any questions for us at all?
Well, actually, I was kind of curious. It's like, what are your diving backgrounds?
Jim?
I know that's a long question, but
Well, I'm a
shorten it.
very new diver. I logged my 18th dive yesterday, so I qualified in July.
You're a brand new baby diver?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I started in January, and then obviously COVID put a bit of a lid on it, and then qualified in July. So I've just got open water PADI at the moment. So
Gemma, have you been with the Big Scuba podcast for a while then as a non-diver?
Yeah.
Well, when we initially started it, yes. So I got to talk to all these amazing people, names and, just people that are so enthusiastic about diving. And so that kind of, inspired you a bit to feel like all these people are talking about it, and then I'm actually going to get in the water.
You had to wait 5 months, didn't you?
Yeah. So.
And what did you think?
Well, I'm really enjoying it. I mean, it's just, incredible. I've only done UK diving, obviously, so I've had a variation of nil visibility. I've done a wreck off our coast here, and then we went up to Scotland and did, 6 sea dives. So I've had, it's not just been like, inland waters. So
You were snorkeling in the rivers for quite
to practice.
Really?
Prior to qualification.
Yeah.
So obviously we've only been used to a pool, so Ian suggested like a hood on, gloves on, wetsuit on, got a mask, snorkel, and we went in our local river.
Yeah.
Okay, are you guys diving? Are you diving wet, or are you diving dry?
Dry.
Summer.
Okay.
In summer, you can get away with in the wetsuits.
Yeah.
When most of the time, though, in the UK, it's really dry suit, really. But in the height of the summer, the sea will get to about 18 degrees in the sea.
Yeah, it's comfy.
So, what's that in Fahrenheit? About 40, 30, 40
something like that. It's like it's a I think double it and then add 30. I think it's like the quick and dirty conversion.
I think so. It's doable in a wetsuit, but only really the height of summer, and now it's sort of like kind of getting to the limits of it, really, of wetsuit. And I think a lot of it depends on how you are with the cold, really, and also how deep and how long you're going to be as well. Yeah, because going to go deep, then obviously you really want to be in a dry suit. But
quite nice having a cozy dry suit.
Well, congratulations to you, Gemma. I hope your diving journey continues and you get to go to all of these amazing places that you've been hearing about. Obviously, I imagine on the podcast. So
definitely
come dive Hawaii. Go dive Hawaii.
I've got this long list of places to go now.
What about you, Ian? What about you?
I've been diving for about 5 years, 5-6 years, and dive master for about 3-4 years. Really enjoy the role. I've never ruled out ever going to an instructor, but I just really enjoy the dive master role, and it kind of suits me really. So I quite like it.
I will admit, if I could make the same amount of money dive mastering as I could teaching, like instructing, I would be dive master forever. Yeah,
it's a nice role.
Dive mastering is super fun. It's super fun. I actually like it more than teaching, but practicality wise, you know what I mean? It's like, teaching is where, you make more money teaching. But I would dive master all day, every day if I could, because I get it. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's all right. I quite enjoy it.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes, we've got a journey ahead of us on Scuba Gen.
That's brilliant. But thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for doing this with us. That's brilliant.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and let's keep in touch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, you guys. Have a good night.
Yes, lovely. Okay, have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.